Watch this clip from Israeli TV and see for yourself the real attitude of Zionism and Judaism toward Jesus Christ and Christians.
שלום, הגעתי מתוכנית ההיסטוריה של טופי והגורילה. היום נלמד על צליבת ישו. שמעת על ישו?
הוא נשמע אדם נכבד.
לא, ישו היה אויב העם היהודי.
Note, Jesus is, quote, an enemy of the Jewish people.
אני רוצה להתבולל.
אתה יודע בכלל מה זה להתבולל? זה לקיים יחסי מין עם גויה. זה לא דבר שלא אני ולא אתה רוצים כמובן.
Assimilation is, quote, to get effed up with a Goya. And by the way, that's you. If you're a non-Jew, that's you, a Goy. Now notice how non-assimilation is exactly the opposite of what the Jewish-dominated media in America preaches to its Gentile and mostly Christian audience. They don't want anyone to have pride in their own heritage. No one but themselves. You see, if we dare to love and defend our own interests and our own heritage as the Zionists do their own, we wouldn't support their Zionist wars with our money and our lives.
צופים בבית?
בגלל זה אני אצלוב אותך. איך אתה מעז להטיף ליהודים התמימים?
אלוהים! למה עזבתני?
אתה נאצי ישו, אתה נאצי!
טופי! לא, טופי, אני מפחד! אני הלכתי על המים, אני הפכתי טופי, לא!
זה רק אפק, פחדן!
לא! לא!
Think about this clip next time some so-called Christian Zionist tells you to send your money to Israel. I don't blame some of you for thinking that you're supposed to support Israel and the powerful Jewish organizations in America. After all, the media constantly tells you that it's a Christian's duty to support Israel. But who runs Hollywood and the New York media? I tell you, it sure isn't Christians. I do understand you. I'm a Christian who once felt the same way. But I found out that I'd been lied to about Israel, about Judaism, and about Zionism. Many Christians, people of different faiths, and even free thinkers are finding out the truth about Jewish extremism. Even if you know the truth, it's likely you have some Christian family members or friends who have been flooded with pro-Zionist propaganda. Don't blame the ones you love for their views. Just be kind to them and patient with them and show them what they've not been allowed to see. Eventually they'll open their eyes and their hearts and see the truth. Here's more Israeli TV.
הנוצרים מספרים לכם שישו הלך על המים בכנרת, אבל זה לא נכון. ישו היה שמן מאוד. יש מאמין. אבל זה לא נכון. ההוכחה לכך של האמת היא שבגיל 15 מריה נכנסה כך בילתה מריה לילה סוער במלון נוצרי. אל תאמינו לה.
It's not only Israeli TV that puts out this vile hate toward Christ and Christians. American Hollywood and TV is just about as Jewish as they are in Israel. In America, they have to be a little more subtle than in Israel. In his TV program, Zionist Larry David makes up a story where he uses the toilet in the home of two devout elderly Christian ladies. His urine splashes up in a picture of Jesus. And then Larry David and his other Jewish co-writers mock Christians by depicting these Christian women as believing that David's urine was a miracle tear of Jesus. The women then venerate Larry David's urine on the face of Christ. Here's a clip of Jewish comedian Sarah Silverman. She's not as subtle as Larry David.
Good. I hope the Jews did kill Christ. I'd do it again. I'd do it again in a second.
Do you think Silverman had any trouble in the Jewish media for hatefully saying that she'd like to crucify Christ again? Not in your life. She gets the red carpet treatment from the rest of her tribe that runs the media. The truth is that the vicious anti-Christian hate of Israeli TV, of Hollywood, and the sick freaks like Silverman are not one bit more extreme than the sacred writings at the core of Judaism. Silverman's just repeating what she's been taught from the Jewish Talmud. Now, some of you don't know what the Talmud is. Here's the Jewish definition of it. Quote, the primary source of Jewish religious law. Peter Schaeffer, head of Judaic Studies at Princeton University, wrote a book called Jesus in the Talmud. The best way to explain it is to quote from a review of the book by the well-known Publishers Weekly. Quote, what is so scandalous? How about Jesus punished in hell for eternity by being made to sit in a cauldron of boiling excrement? The Talmud also claims that Mother Mary was a prostitute and Jesus a bastard. Judaism's primary authority maintains that Jesus deserved to be murdered as a dangerous enemy of Jews. In fact, Jewish sages so hate Jesus, they revel in claiming that they are boiling Jesus for eternity in human feces. And you know, I just can't imagine that kind of hatred for anyone, much less Jesus, a kind-hearted teacher of love and forgiveness. So now you can understand Israeli TV with a gorilla portraying Jesus and a Jewess gleefully pretending to crucify him. And Sarah Silverman, you can understand her hate now. It's right out of the Jewish Talmud. I know that not every Jew hates Jesus, but Judaism at its core is anti-Christ. And I thank and honor men of Jewish descent, such as the late Israel Shahak, and courageous Jews like Gilad Atzmon for exposing the Talmud. The Christian Zionists and the media keep you from the fact that Christians are today routinely spit upon by religious Jews in Israel. Now here's a headline from Haaretz newspaper in Israel. It reads, Christians in Jerusalem want Jews to stop spitting on them. The Jerusalem Post quotes Father Agoyim, a leading Christian clergyman, saying, quote, every single priest in this church has been spat on. It happens day and night. Elderly Christian nuns are so often spat upon that they fear to go out. Now, could you imagine if Jewish rabbis or Jewish women were being regularly spit upon in London or New York? I tell you, it'd be one of the biggest stories in the Zionist-run media. Heck, Steven Spielbucks would make another movie. He'd probably call it Spitter's List. But oy vey, it's only Christian Goyim being spat upon, so what's the big deal? In order to keep the Christian money flowing to Israel, Christians are not allowed to know that Christians in Israel are routinely spit upon. Unless you've read my books, I bet you didn't know. Now, don't you think that you have the right to know? When I hear some preachers say that those who bless Israel will be blessed, I stand up and ask them, so exactly what are the blessings America has received for supporting anti-Christian Israel as no other nation has? Is our blessing the abortion of 100 million unborn children? Is it the rapid destruction of marriage in America? Is it the highest crime rate and sexual disease rate in the Western world? Please tell me, is our blessing the tens of millions of lives ruined by drugs and alcohol? Is it 9/11 and 3,000 dead Americans? Is that one of our blessings? Is it the hundreds of thousands of brain-injured Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan in the Zionist-driven wars there? Oh, and let's not forget that America has also become the porn capital of the world. Much of it really sick degradation and defilement of women and men. Jewish professor Nathan Abrams brags in an article for the Jewish Intellectual Quarterly that Jews have led the pornographic movement in America and have transformed the fringe porn industry to the mainstream. He writes, quote, is there a deeper reason beyond the mere financial as to why Jews in particular have become involved in porn? Pornography thus becomes a way of defiling Christian culture. Jewish involvement in porn, by this argument, is the result of an atavistic hatred of Christian authority. They're trying to weaken the dominant culture in America by moral subversion. Nathan tells us that Jews promote pornography in part because of their atavistic hatred of Christians is so strong that they want to defile us. What does it take for you to wake up? Most Christians in America have no idea that hundreds of thousands of Palestinian Christians have suffered terribly from the Zionists when the Zionists took over Palestine. The birthplace of Jesus Christ, Bethlehem, for instance, actually had a majority of Palestinian Christians in it at one time. The Zionists destroyed hundreds of Christian churches, murdered Christian clergy, destroyed Christian schools. They killed or maimed thousands of Palestinian Christians. Israel also later invaded Lebanon twice and bombed and maimed and murdered thousands more Christians there. In all, Israel has killed and maimed tens of thousands of Christians. That's your own Christian brothers and sisters. Today, there are 400,000 Palestinian Christian refugees who have suffered horribly at the hands of the Zionists. They were driven from their homes, their farms, their businesses, and their homeland by the Zionists. Now, how can any Christian support Zionist Israel and the murder of fellow Christians by anti-Christian Judaics? I believe that no real Christian who knows the truth could support Zionism and its horrible crimes against Christian men, women, and children. Now, here's a clip that shows what's really going on in the West Bank against the Christians there.
You and your Jesus could kiss my ass, okay? Go away. Screw you. Whoa. I break your camera, don't take picture. Yeah? We killed Jesus, we're proud of it. So we're gonna kill you and the Palestinians. You Nazi. Call everyone you want.
Christians who support Israel just don't know that they're actually supporting evil done to their fellow Christians. If you have supported Zionist Israel, I know that you've meant no harm. But I ask you once again to open your eyes and open your heart. Imagine if your own family were bombed, your own Christian children maimed or killed, your own home stolen from you. Imagine if you and your own family were driven out of your own land and forbidden ever to return. Here's a quote right out of Thessalonians about the persecution of Christians in biblical times that's just as true today. Quote, "For you suffered as your own countrymen did from the Jews, who killed both the Lord Jesus and the prophets and drove us out, and displeased God and oppose all mankind, who keep us from speaking to the Gentiles that they might be saved. But God's wrath has come upon them at last." Palestinian Christians live this New Testament described horror every day. One of the most repeated phrases in the New Testament are the words, quote, "for fear of the Jews." Palestinians know what the term means. Any Christian in America or Europe knows what it means if they fight this power. In a secret conversation with President Nixon, Billy Graham talked about the New Testament reference to the synagogue of Satan and the Jewish role in pornography. He said that the Jewish stranglehold over the American media will destroy our country unless broken. Now you can actually hear the recording of Graham in my video, Should Christians Support Israel? But Graham never dared to say publicly what he said privately to the President of the United States. Why? It goes right back to the same phrase from the New Testament. My fellow Christians and non-Christians alike, we don't have to be afraid anymore. Millions of Christians and others are awakening. People can recognize the truth when they finally hear it. Zionist power is based on lies and bribery and on fear, including bribery of some Christian leaders who were seduced by their money, their power, are fearful of that power. But the best among us cannot be bribed. It is not fear, but courage that brings freedom. Remember, whether you're a Christian or of any other view of religion or of no religion, have patience and love toward your Christian friends and family who don't yet see the light. Keep sharing the truth with them, and someday they will thank you for it. As it says in John 8:32, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free."